Hi everyone, welcome to Midnight Storytime. Before watching the video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. My wife sought revenge against me for the sake of her white Moonlight, her first love. On the day of my wedding to Lydia, he committed suicide by jumping from a building. My wife was devastated as she cradled his broken body. Afterward, she orchestrated my death in a car accident to avenge him. When I opened my eyes, I was back in university. I looked at Victor, who was still immature, and realized I hadn't married Lydia yet. Everything happened at the perfect moment. This time, I will help both of them. A lock and its two keys should never be separated. On that day, as the gentle spring air carried the brilliant warmth of the sun, I watched Lydia sitting in the classroom, looking out the window. By the time class ended, I had fully processed the reality. I had been reborn. Next should be a classic scene. In my past life, Victor offered water to Lydia, but I had smashed his bottle in a jealous rage. Recalling those thoughts as the lecture ended, I happily ran to the convenience store. I bought Lydia's favorite drink and even picked up water for her roommates. After paying, I noticed that Victor, who was supposed to be there buying water, was missing. I didn't care where he was, but I sent him a quick text before lugging the heavy bottles back toward the classroom. As I approached, I heard the bell ring. I picked up my pace and stood by the door, only to see a crowd gathered around Lydia. She was already holding a cup in her hand, a cup with a Doraemon design on it. That cup belonged to Lydia and Victor. She never bothered to avoid suspicion when it came to him. She was just about to open the lid and take a drink. Lydia and I grew up together. Since we were 7 or 8, our elders joked about an arranged marriage. She used to love calling me her little husband, a name that always made me blush. Because of our closeness, I knew Lydia suffered from mysophobia, a fear of germs. In high school, we often studied together. Once, I accidentally drank from her cup. Although she didn't say anything, I saw her beautiful brows furrow in disgust. Her brow had furrowed deeply in disgust. Later, I saw that water cup, the one I had sipped from, tossed in the trash. From that moment on, I knew she suffered from severe mysophobia, just like her mother. Seeing Lydia drink from Victor's cup now, I realized immediately. Those two had already engaged in an intimacy far deeper than I knew, a physical exchange. That was why she no longer maintained any physical boundaries with him. For a moment, the pain was so visceral I wanted to vomit. It made me wonder exactly when it all began. Whenever Lydia bought me milk tea, it was always mango-flavored. I'm allergic to mango. Victor loves it. When she bought me gifts, there were always things Victor liked. In my past life, I actually questioned this. But she would say with a smile, "Julian, he's your best friend, yet he isn't welcome in his own home. We should be kind to him." It sounded so reasonable. In my previous life, my thoughts were simple. I never looked beneath the surface. Even before this classroom scene, I never imagined Lydia could love Victor. After all, she had promised me long ago that she would never marry anyone but me. In kindergarten, she saved every piece of candy the teacher gave her just for me. In elementary school, when other kids bullied me, she would shield me with her slender frame, arguing or even fighting on my behalf until she was black and blue. She said it was fine. She was older than me, so she had to protect me. In middle school, while other students avoided each other to escape the stigma of puppy love, she bought me soda and caught cicadas for me. She used to whisper to me, "Julian, we are destined to be together. So, even if you're closer to me than anyone else right now, it's okay." I would just smile, feeling shy, my heart thumping like a trapped bird at her sweet, gentle expression. When the heavy workload of high school eased, we became the most vibrant colors in each other's lives. To stay by her side, I abandoned the subjects I excelled at and chose science, pushing myself to the limit to solve every problem. Hard work paid off, and I finally got into the same university as her. We were the golden couple, beautiful and envied. That was why, in my past life, when I discovered her secret dalliance with Victor, I lost control. I rushed forward and smashed Victor's cup onto the ground. She froze for a moment. Perhaps she felt I had humiliated her in front of everyone. She shoved me hard, and by a stroke of ill luck, I stepped on a piece of gravel, slipped, and sprawled onto the ground with my arms flailing, looking utterly pathetic. The classmates around us erupted in laughter. She didn't even seem to notice I had fallen. She simply knelt to pick up the blue cup. As my rear hit the hard cement, the pain brought tears to my eyes. When I scrambled up, I realized I'd scraped my palms raw against the ground. Blood was starting to seep through. Beside me, Victor watched as I got up from the ground. He spoke with a feigned, uncomfortable concern. "Julian, please don't be angry. I just thought Lydia looked too hot and was sweating so much, so I offered it to her." He lowered his head, his handsome face masking a glimmer of unshed tears. I truly saw it. He was putting on an act. As he spoke, he reached out to get closer to me. I brushed his hand away as he scurried back to Lydia's side. "Lydia, it's my fault," Victor continued. "I shouldn't have given you my personal cup to drink from. I just saw how much you were sweating. I'm sorry." He rambled on, sentence after sentence. "Don't be mad at Julian. It's all my fault." Lydia's expression turned icy, as if she were reluctantly tolerating my presence while paying respects to Victor's kindness. She told me I was being unreasonable. She even asked me, "What's wrong with drinking from someone else's cup? Was I supposed to just sit here and be thirsty?" "Julian, I really didn't know you were such a petty person. Victor is your friend, your best brother. How can you be so intolerant? We are supposed to get married later. Will you let anyone stay close to me then? You can't even stand a male fly near me." A few of her close friends laughed exaggeratedly. Others joked, saying I was just jealous. In Lydia's eyes, I was lucky to have her. The crowd was a cacophony of noise. That day in my past life, I simply turned and walked away, spending the afternoon alone. Later, she came to find me. She looked at the wound on my hand, her eyes turning red. "Julian, I'm sorry. I was just so thirsty that day. When I saw him offer the cup, I couldn't help myself. I didn't have any ulterior motives. Please stay calm. It was my fault. But Victor is your best friend. You share a dorm. I only think of him as a younger brother. I really have no other thoughts. I was just afraid you'd accidentally make him feel bad, so I got a bit anxious and pushed you. Don't be angry. Let's have dinner together tonight." Then she looked at me with those affectionate, puppy dog eyes. "Victor suffers from depression," she added. "His home life is so depressing. Everything he does is considered wrong. He comes from a large family, and he's the least loved child. His father doesn't even let him eat at the table. He only gets to eat the leftovers his older brother leaves behind." Victor had told us that he truly couldn't stand his older brother, who would actually spit into the food while they were eating. But Victor had no choice. He had to eat the leftovers or starve to death. At that time, everyone in our dorm felt immense sympathy for him. We comforted him and assumed his depression was a result of that trauma. We all started prioritizing his needs over ours. "Hey, why didn't you buy the water?" Victor's voice snapped me back to reality. In my past life, he had just told me to go buy drinks, only to rush ahead and present his own water to Lydia, a blatant declaration of war against me. I glanced at the Doryman cup he was cradling in his hands and simply smiled. "Why buy water? Don't you already have some right there?" My meaningful smile seemed to fluster him for a second. I stood up and headed toward the school's mini-mart anyway. Victor probably thought I was following his orders. And yes, I did buy water, but I opened the cap and took several long gulps for myself. Standing under the scorching sun, I thought to myself, it's a waste to bake out here like a piece of salted dried fish. I had no desire to go back to class. Wouldn't playing games in the dorm be much better? I pulled out my phone and called my mother. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to talk to my family without Lydia's shadow looming over us. I got straight to the point. "Mom, let me tell you a secret. Lydia is in love." My tone was light and cheerful. On the other end of the line, my mother was clearly stunned. After a long pause, she asked, "Wait, Julian, what's going on? Are you saying you and Lydia are in love?" "Mom, how could you have such a disastrous misunderstanding?" I said quickly, "Lydia and I grew up together. If there's any confusion, it's the fault of you and her parents for teasing us since we were kids. But we've known each other since we were toddlers." I chuckled intentionally. "We used to pee in the dirt and play in the rain together. How could we possibly fall in love after all that? Let me tell you, there's this mysterious beauty at our school. He's very handsome and works incredibly hard to win her over. Oh, and to be clear, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Lydia's actual boyfriend." My mother sounded utterly bewildered on the other end of the line. After a long silence, my mother finally spoke. "All right, let's talk about Lydia. How is she? Is she really seeing someone?" "Yes, Mom. They're even sharing the same water cup now. It's a done deal. She's found a boyfriend and hasn't even invited me to dinner yet. Do you think I'm oversharing? My mother sighed earnestly. You've said enough. Then she asked how things are going with this mysterious beauty I mentioned. I told her I was handling it. We chatted for over 10 minutes. Just as I was about to hang up, my mother suddenly asked, Julian, give me the truth. You and Lydia, you aren't actually in love, are you? Mom, I could be with anyone in the world, but with her, it's impossible. I said this with absolute finality. On the other end, my mother sounded visibly relieved. When I hung up, I breathed a sigh of relief myself. In my past life, I was simple and kind. I knew nothing about our family business. In this life, I know the stakes. The Lee family's capital chain is in deep trouble, and they are desperate for investors. If they don't find funding, they face bankruptcy. In my previous life, my family poured money into their business because Mr. Lee told my mother, your Julian has his heart set on my daughter. Sooner or later, we'll be one family. This time, I made it clear to my mother, I don't love Lydia. We won't be touching the Lee family's business. Letting go of Lydia feels incredible. When you stop loving someone, the sense of relaxation and joy is truly restorative for the body and soul. In my past life, I endured Lydia's cold violence until I spiraled into depression and eventually developed liver cancer. This life is for my own health. I need to love myself more. I finished my drink and walked back to class. As expected, Lydia was still there, her neck tilted back as she held that Doraemon cup. As I approached, she must have spotted me because she stopped drinking and walked toward me. Julian, where did you go? She asked with a smile. Did you buy the water for my roommates like you said? I shrugged and gave her a casual smile. No, the convenience store is right over there. It's only a few steps. They can go themselves. As I spoke, my eyes fell on the cup in her hand. She seemed to realize something and hurriedly handed the cup back to Victor. Victor took the cup, a subtle sense of loss flickering in his eyes. Then he said softly, Julian, I thought Lydia was just too thirsty, so I gave her a few sips from my cup. Please, don't misunderstand. I pretended to be confused and asked back. Misunderstand what? Oh, wait, is something going on between you two? I smiled and leaned in. Victor, you wouldn't happen to like Lydia, would you? Victor's face turned pale, and he helplessly twisted a corner of his shirt. Even in Lydia's eyes, I caught a flash of panic. I covered my mouth and laughed. What's with the faces? University is a paradise for romance. Victor, if you like Lydia, then go for it. Maybe you're just nervous about officially asking her out for dinner. Lydia suddenly snapped. Enough, Julian. What kind of joke is this supposed to be? I just chuckled. Why keep up the act when everyone already knows? In my past life, the two of them would go out for secret barbecue dates. When Victor returned to the dorm late at night, his face flushed with booze, he would drone on and on about Lydia. I pretended not to hear him then. In a blink, it was the beginning of the month. That day, only Victor and I were in the dorm. He suddenly asked me, Julian, haven't you given me the living expenses for this month yet? I nodded slowly as I continued with my notes. Victor prompted, Well, can you give it to me now? I almost burst out laughing. I intentionally asked, Victor, if you need living expenses, shouldn't you go to your mother? What do you want from me? In my past life, Victor would stage a tragic crying performance in our dorm, claiming his mother didn't want to see him, let alone give him money. He said she told him that since he was in university and grown up, he had to be financially independent and find a part-time job. But as a child who grew up soaked in a honey jar, how would he know how to work? So he naturally turned to me for his allowance. I had already thought of countermeasure. Smiling, I said, Classmate Victor, what you're saying is wrong. I used to help you because I saw you were in a tough spot. Supporting you was a gesture of friendship between roommates. It wasn't an obligation. After all, my family doesn't run a charity. Besides, I continued, I like a girl now. At this point, I pretended to look infatuated, resting my chin on my hand at a 45-degree angle, my eyes bright yet sentimental. I want to save up some money to buy her a gift and confess my feelings. I put all my spare cash into that. Why would you expect me to fund you? After hearing my words, he was completely shocked, his mouth hanging open long enough to fit a camel's egg. He stammered, J. Julian, aren't you and Lydia a couple? How can you confess to someone else? I laughed out loud. So, he didn't know all along that Lydia and I were supposed to be together. I intentionally doubled down. Classmate Victor, you've got it all wrong. Lydia and I just grew up together. The adults in our families were always joking around, but that's just talk. Those rumors have spread so much that people have lost all sense of boundaries. It's actually quite a nuisance. What if no girls at university want to date me because of it? I've decided it's best to keep my distance from her. I didn't even show up the last time she invited me to dinner. Saying this, I threw my arms up and shouted with exaggerated longing, "Sweet love, where are you?" At first, Victor's expression was hideous to look at. But then, he began to smile, a truly happy, triumphant smile. He must have thought that without me in the way, Lydia was already in his pocket. He saw a chance to leap across social classes and marry into a wealthy family in one fell swoop. At noon, Lydia called and asked to meet at the campus cafe. I went, ready to make things crystal clear. As soon as I sat down, she got straight to the point. "Julian, what exactly do you mean by all this?" I played dumb. "Lydia, if you have something to say, just say it. We've been in love for so long, and now you're saying it was nothing? You want to find someone else to love? Do you like another girl?" Her voice rose sharply, drawing the attention of everyone in the cafe. People started leaning in, ready to feast on the first-hand drama. I remained calm and smiled. "Lydia, when exactly were we in love? Just because the adults teased us, or because we've known each other since we were kids? You actually think that counts as love?" She suddenly bolted upright, pointing a finger at me. "Julian, you are a heartless man. I loved you with all my heart. I pampered you from the time we were little. I picked flowers and caught cicadas for you. I tutored you so you could get into this university, and now you're just going to wipe the slate clean?" She acted incredibly agitated, even shouting for the crowd's benefit. "Classmates, you be the judges." There were a lot of people in the cafe. I stood up, took some items I had brought with me, and slammed them onto the table. "Lydia, stop acting like you're so deeply devoted to me. You and Victor are busy exchanging bodies in hotel rooms. Why don't you mention that? If we were truly in love, wouldn't your behavior count as an affair?" I continued firmly. "I thought that since we grew up together, I should be understanding if you liked other guys. But how did I become the heartless one? You're the one who couldn't control yourself, and yet you have the nerve to come here and attack me." As I spoke, I scattered a stack of indecent photos across the table and the floor. I turned and walked away. The moment I was reborn, the very first thing I did was hire a paparazzi. I had hired a private investigator to keep a sharp eye on Lydia and Victor, capturing every intimate moment between them. To be honest, I didn't initially plan to use these against her. After all, we aren't married. She's single, and if she wants to play me for a fool, that's her business. I just wanted to move on, unlike my past life, where I was a love brain with nothing else going for me. My original goal was simply to gather rock-solid evidence to show my parents that Lydia and I were an impossibility. No matter what the Leaf family says, I will never let Lydia sink her claws into our family company this time. She won't get the chance to bind me for life, nor is she fit to be the CEO of a major corporation. The rumors about Lydia sailing on 2 boats spread through the campus like wildfire. "Hey, did you hear? I'm in her class." It was a total setup. She was hooked up with Victor while accusing her childhood boyfriend of cheating. "It gets better," someone added, scrolling through their phone. "The guy she cheated with is Victor, who actually lives in the same dorm as the boyfriend. And get this, Victor was taking allowance money from the boyfriend to pay for his dates with Lydia. I don't care if people think I'm loving someone else, or if they realize I just needed an excuse to leave. Most people just see a woman who is utterly shameless. How could she dare accuse her boyfriend of being unkind while she was doing this?" After I threw those photos at Lydia, several landed on the floor. They were quickly snatched up, and someone posted them to the school's online forum. The scale of the scandal was massive. It exploded instantly. Everyone feasted on the drama while showering her with contempt. In our dormitory, everyone knew the history. Lydia and I were childhood friends, and her family had intended to marry her off to me since we were kids. It was a clear, prestigious path, yet she chose to back Victor. Now that the photos are out, everyone is pointing fingers at him with nothing but loathing. The guy in the bunk below me was the first to speak up. "Julian, thanks for exposing Victor. How could that bastard have the nerve to do something so shameless? Don't even mention his name in front of me. I want nothing to do with a guy like that." Marcus, in the bed next to me, tried to comfort me as well. I waved my hand dismissively. The thing that makes me the angriest about this whole mess isn't Victor. It's Lydia. Think about it. She likes someone else, yet she kept things blurry with me while dating Victor. She pretended to be affectionate, flirted with me, asked to meet up, and then had the nerve to accuse me? It's shameless. My two roommates were practically shouting in their sleep from anger. Victor stood outside the door, eavesdropping, his face shadowed with gloom, not daring to enter. From that day on, he was completely isolated. After all, everyone has a core set of values. People naturally despise anyone who lacks the basic moral decency not to prey on a friend's girlfriend. Since we shared a dorm, our fourth roommate, who has the strongest sense of justice, looked like he wanted to stab Victor with words every time he saw him. What surprised me most was that Victor actually went to the academic counselor to complain. He claimed we were bullying the poor and favoring the rich, isolating him and picking on him. When a counselor called us in, Marcus didn't even wait for me to speak. He laid out the entire story with perfect clarity. "Sir, we aren't bullying him," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "We just don't want to associate with him. He stole Julian's girlfriend. Heaven only knows when he might stab the rest of us in the back. We can't afford that kind of risk, so we're just staying away." The counselor, being a reasonable person, understood the situation. Naturally, I didn't need to say much. However, I didn't expect Victor to intercept me after class today. "Julian, what exactly do you mean by this?" he demanded. I looked at him with curiosity, a calm smile on my face. "What I mean? Victor, you like Lydia, right? Well, you have her now. That doesn't change the fact that I despise you from the bottom of my soul. I simply don't want to see your face." Our fourth roommate pulled me away. "Let's go, Julian. Just ignore him." Victor grew livid and intentionally raised his voice. "You guys are just bullying the poor and sucking up to the rich. Just because my family doesn't have money, you'd rather kiss Julian's feet, right?" Mark looked at him as if he were a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Even if you're poor, that's no excuse for being a snake and stealing someone's girl," he shouted back. We turned and walked away. In truth, after the affair between Victor and Lydia was exposed, they started dating openly. But something must have snapped in Victor. He began taking his pent-up rage out on Lydia. If Victor wanted to live like this, he had to pay the price. He began comparing everything about his lifestyle to mine. He refused to wear clothes that cost only 100 or 200 yuan, claiming they were beneath him, and he couldn't stand dining at restaurants that weren't high-end. He demanded a constant stream of new designer clothes and fancy meals. Now, Lydia did have a significant amount of pocket money, but she usually spent it on luxury handbags while shopping with her friends. When she first got together with Victor, she enjoyed the pride of being the one to pay. She was used to Victor only being able to afford daily necessities worth a few dollars. But now that he had developed a taste for the high life, and she still wanted her tens of thousands of dollars bags, her funds began to dry up. She started borrowing from friends and making up excuses to ask her family for more money. At the start, the Lee family had no idea about the affair between Lydia and Victor. Their company was facing a massive capital chain crisis and was on the brink of bankruptcy. Mr. Lee was running around everywhere trying to raise funds, naturally looking to friends and relatives first. Mr. Lee came to my house early one morning. My parents are cautious people and don't like to rush into business deals. They told him they needed time to review the proposal. Meanwhile, my father had become quite upset after hearing about the scandal between Lydia and Victor. Acting on my subtle advice and my knowledge from my past life that a certain alternative project was a golden goose, he decided to invest our capital elsewhere. My parents are sharp. After their own evaluation, they realized that the other project would bring in massive profits. When Mr. Lee found out, he rushed to our house and began berating my parents, accusing them of disregarding our long-standing friendship and refusing to lend a helping hand. My father only gave a vague, non-committal smile. This prompted Mr. Lee to snap. "Old Julian, you knew my family's capital chain was in trouble and that we were at risk of bankruptcy. That's why you didn't want to invest. But have you even thought about your own son? Your Julian's heart belongs entirely to my daughter. Sooner or later, we will be one family. Why are you being so stingy with this bit of money? Is this how a human talks?" He continued his blunt, almost predatory logic. "Your son loves my daughter, and you only have one son. This fortune will belong to my daughter eventually anyway. What are you trying to hide? Hearing this, my mother couldn't hold back anymore. She sneered and said, "Old Lee, since when does my Julian love your daughter? Just because two kids grow up together or read the same books. Don't you dare ruin my son's reputation. Forget it. Your daughter is already dating someone else at school. Oh, and I heard the boy is mentally unstable, too," my mother added, her eyes sharp. As she spoke, she handed the photos I'd sent her directly to Mr. Lee. The moment Mr. and Mrs. Lee saw the images, their expressions shifted instantly. The Lee family's financing had already collapsed, and their bank loans were due. Not to mention, all of their assets were on the verge of being frozen. Every piece of property tied to their name was about to be seized by the court. Lydia, however, was blissfully unaware of any of this. With me out of the picture, Victor was showering her with sweet talk. To some extent, it satisfied her ego immensely. But the good times didn't last. Just as Victor thought he had nailed the lid shut on his future with Lydia, convinced he had secured his meal ticket, Mrs. Lee stormed the campus. She came straight to our dormitory. She didn't just slap Victor. She pointed right at his face and screamed. Then she grabbed Victor by the hair and began beating him ruthlessly. "I'll kill you for being such a fool." Her curses echoed throughout the dorm for a long time while Victor broke down in tears from the assault. At first, he didn't even realize that the fierce woman attacking him was Lydia's mother. The chaos continued until the dean of students arrived and called the police. Naturally, I made sure Lydia was called to the scene as well. "Mrs. Lee, please stop," I said as the parties began to mediate. Even then, Mrs. Lee wouldn't stop talking. She kept insisting that her daughter and I were the real couple and that it was all Victor's fault for harassing her precious daughter. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Everyone was blaming Victor, but why didn't she blame her own daughter? In my past life, this woman looked down on me with utter contempt. She used to say Victor was the one who loved her daughter most because he would do anything for her. But I am different now. Haha, in my previous life, I was blinded by a love brain, but not anymore. I used to think Lydia was perfect in every way. I was wrong. I was the one who was mistaken, thinking Victor had nothing to do with her. Having a smart brain is a good thing, but if you have a love brain, you're better off having no brain at all. When the police asked me what happened, I told them everything. Lydia and I grew up together. Our parents joked and teased us when we were kids, but we're adults now. She's in love with Victor. Whatever relationship we had doesn't matter anymore. Most of the school knows they're a couple. It's already developed into a physical relationship. Hearing my words, the police could only try to talk sense into Mrs. Lee. But she continued to cause a scene, demanding that Lydia and Victor break up. She hugged Lydia and apologized to me, saying, "Julian, Lydia was just temporarily possessed by a ghost and got confused. Please don't be angry." I replied with a smile. "Oh, I'm not angry at all. Lydia has a boyfriend now. It's not too late for her to be happy. Why would I be angry?" My response made Mrs. Lee freeze like a statue. It was only then that Lydia learned the truth. The Lee family was bankrupt. She was no longer the pampered princess of a wealthy house. And that wasn't all. Besides the bank loans, there were private debts to pay and unpaid wages for their employees. To make matters worse, because Victor insisted on competing with me, Lydia had taken out over 100,000 renminbi in online payday loans to fund his lifestyle. She had originally thought she could just go home, make up an excuse, and her doting mother would give her the money instantly. Now she was dazed. Just like her father, she set her sights on my family again. She began pursuing me with everything she had, lighting candles at the dorm entrance and bringing me breakfast every day. If this were anyone else, there might be some pure-hearted onlookers cheering for her. But for me in this life, not a chance, baby. Now, whenever students hear Lydia's name at the men's dorm entrance, they immediately take a detour. Everyone just stands back to watch the drama. After all, those indecent photos of her and Victor had been plastered on the school wall for a long time. The spotlight on her had barely dimmed before her mother came to the dorm and caused that massive uproar. The police were called, providing even more drama for the school's gossip-hungry crowd. At this point, even I, the supposed victim, can't keep track of how far this mess has escalated. Regardless, I'm the one everyone feels sorry for. This morning, Lydia showed up yet again. I finally reached my breaking point. I slammed the gift she handed me onto the ground. Lydia, do you have no dignity left? I snapped. You liked Victor, didn't you? Aren't you two doing great? Victor needs 3 meals a day just to survive, yet he claims we're bullying and humiliating him. He's even threatening suicide, saying he'll come back as a ghost to haunt us. He's driving us insane, and you're here, being utterly shameless. I'm trying to move on and pursue other girls, but you're making a scene. This is harassment. If you do it again, I'm calling the police. Lydia stared at me, her eyes filled with a complex, dazed look. I ignored her and hurried toward class with my 2 roommates. These past 2 days, it hasn't just been Lydia bothering me. Victor has been causing trouble too. He told me, Julian, since you don't love Lydia, why can't you just help us? We are true love. Please, don't fight me for her. I really love her. I can't live without her. He even went as far as kneeling at the dorm door, begging for my forgiveness. I've explained to him countless times, I truly don't like Lydia anymore, and I've made that clear to her as well. He's tried to pick fights with Lydia several times since then. But once Lydia realized the true extent of her family's bankruptcy, a chill ran down my spine. To her, I am now her only shortcut back to a life of wealth. To save her family, her lifestyle, and her future, she is determined to catch me at any cost. Deep down, she now hates Victor. She believes he is the one who ruined her good thing. She curses her own stupidity for getting lost in him. Yet, Victor still spews his shameless nonsense. Lydia even tried to explain her infidelity to me by saying she was just confused by him. She even had the audacity to tell me that, as a normal 20-year-old, having physical needs is just a sign of being healthy. If I hadn't been reborn, I couldn't have imagined someone could be this delusional. My childhood friend was actually trying to explain why she climbed into bed with another guy, acting with such utter shamelessness. As finals approached, none of us had time to look around. We were all buried in our studies. The moment the final exam ended, as I walked out of the room with my 4th and 5th roommates, we heard that someone had committed suicide from the roof of the shopping center across from us. People were saying the victim had gone through a breakup and just couldn't handle it anymore. Something fell off to me. I grabbed my roommates and ran toward the mall. No way, I thought, is that guy actually going through with it? My 4th roommate was huffing and puffing. Don't say it. I don't want to run into that kind of bad luck. What a waste. But we saw it. Between the past and the present, Victor couldn't escape his fate of suicide. He already suffered from mild depression. After being abandoned by Lydia and treated with contempt by everyone else, he reached his breaking point. Lydia had been using all sorts of cruel words to trigger him every 3 days, blaming him constantly and telling him how much she regretted giving herself to him. In the end, just like in my previous life, he chose to jump. But this time, the person who pushed him into that dead end was the same woman who, in my past life, had loved him to the bone. By the time we arrived, his body had been taken away. Lydia was taken in by the police for questioning, but since it was a clear suicide, she was released shortly after. Following her release, she fell dangerously ill. People said she was scared out of her wits. It's only natural to be terrified after seeing Victor die like that right in front of her. However, once Lydia recovered, she started talking nonsense. She claimed she was the CEO of the Julian Group, that she possessed tens of billions in assets, and owned countless villas. She was obsessed with marrying me. She even showed up at my front door. My mother, fearing that Victor's death might have traumatized me, took me away on a trip to clear my head. When I finally saw Lydia again after some time, her clothes were tattered and too small. She looked like a homeless person. Julian, Julian, I caught you, she screamed, lunging for me. Let me tell you, I was only sad for a little while. I'm going to have money. It's the truth. You have to believe me. No, no, no. She shook her head manically. Marry me. I promise I'll love you so much this time. I'll never let you down. I was truly just tricked by Victor. I didn't say a word. I simply called security and had her dragged away. Lydia has gone completely insane. Her parents, desperate and destitute, are scouring every corner for loans just to pay for her medical treatment. Their lives have spiraled from bad to worse, becoming an unending struggle. Of course, as far as I am concerned, none of it has anything to do with my family anymore. A year later, at a business gala for the Julian Group, I reunited with the girl from my university, the one I used to use as an excuse to tease my mother. Clara, the once distant school beauty, stood before me holding a glass of red wine. She gave a charming, graceful smile. Mr. Julian, I heard from your mother that you've admired me for a very long time, she said, playfully unlocking her phone. She sent me her digital business card with a familiar ease. I was so embarrassed I felt like I could dig a hole in the floor with my toes. The guys at school who admire you could stretch across the Atlantic, I stammered. I shouldn't have just said that casually. Well, I admire you too, okay? Let's be friends, she said with a laugh. Whatever happened to the distant, untouchable flower she was supposed to be? As the party ended and I walked toward the door, Lydia suddenly lunged out from the shadows. She screamed at me. Julian, it's not supposed to be like this. How can you like someone else? I know you love me. Clara reached out and wrapped her arm around mine, looking at the homeless-looking woman with pity. As security dragged her away, I stepped toward her one last time. I just looked at her for a long moment before speaking. Lydia, this time, the Julian group has nothing to do with you. Life without you is bliss. I wake up happy every single day. And as for Victor, he died because of you. In both the past life and this one, you were the cause. Now, you must spend the rest of your life in poverty and regret. Her mouth hung open as she stared at me in a daze. I ignored her and turned back toward the bright, brilliant light that truly belongs to me. The story ends here. What do you think of this story? The ending isn't a happy one for the couple, but the MC isn't a simp anymore in this life. So being given a second chance at life wasn't in vain. Thank you for watching. See you again.